to no other.
The following is a presentation of the Tar Heels Sports Network.
With 6 games played, Carolina is officially halfway through the 2021 regular season, and things have not gone as the Tar Heels envisioned. With a 3-3 record, some of the attainable goals have changed, but there's still a lot of football left to play and a lot to achieve. So, no, the first half of the season didn't go as planned, but the second half of the year starts today against Miami. The Tar Heels Sports Network's coverage of the
People are asking about the pressure and the hype. We're just on a roll. Things are good, and I'm excited about it.
I mean, we're all holding ourselves now to a super high standard.
We've got the leadership.
We prepare the same way for every team. No game is bigger than others.
We've got the confidence.
I feel like now nobody can stay with me, and it just rolls into practice.
If you're seeing it in practice, it's going to show up in the game.
I embrace the challenge, honestly.
I just know I got to keep on going.
I'm coming down, making plays.
Anticipate things more.
It's only going to keep getting better.
We're going to be good every year. That's just who we are. That's our program.
This is Carolina football.
Coffrey off to the races, and they will not catch him. Touchdown, Carolina. How? First down and more. How to the 5, how to the end zone. 40, 35, 30. Tar Heels will have it inside the Deacon 15. 25, 20, 10, 5. Fronts over a defender. Goodness gracious. 50, 10, 5. Give him 6, 4. Holy smokes. Light that bell tower blue.
Let's go.
This is Jones Angell. Consistency and communication have been 2 buzzwords around the Tar Heels this week. Carolina will look for both against Miami this afternoon. Brian Simmons was a 2-time All-America at Carolina, has his jersey honored at UNC, and played a decade in the NFL.
And speaking of buzzwords, how about defend your home field? That is the situation Carolina is in today after losing to Florida State last week.
Lee Pace authors Extra Points and will be reporting from the sidelines this afternoon.
It's been pegged as the Disappointment Bowl, a meeting today of the 2 teams picked number 1 and number 2 in the ACC preseason media poll in the Coastal Division. Sadly, between them, the Tar Heels and Hurricanes are languishing in the bottom half of the Coastal Division standings. Today's the chance for one team to chart a better course for the second half of the year.
We'll have all those storylines to talk about, plus interviews with the 2 head coaches, Mac Brown and Manny Diaz. We will continue our weekly conversation with former Carolina great Jeff Saturday. Also talk with former Tar Heel kicker Connor Barth. Plus, we'll keep you up to date on scores from around the ACC, top 25, all the action going on around the country. All of that and a lot more coming up. It's Miami at Carolina and the Rees Jewelers pregame show from Learfield. the third consecutive week. The Reese Jewelers pregame show coming to you from Keenan Stadium in Chapel Hill. Great to be with you. We're brought to you by Reese Jewelers, your hometown jeweler, trusted for generations. Maybe you're watching us on the Carolina Football Field Pass presented by Wells Fargo. Hello to you guys. Thanks for joining us no matter how you are doing so today. You heard from all of us. I'm Jones. He's Brian. Lee Pace joining us, too. You'll hear from Dave Nathan coming up in a little bit. Ben Alexander, our chief network engineer. Jody Zwigner, our spotter and statistician. John Essick back in the studio. And interesting weather day here for Carolina, Miami. It has been sunny most of the day. Some dark clouds, though, rolling in. We do anticipate a front to move through right before the game or at the beginning of the game. Then to be clear the rest of the day. Temperature is expected to drop pretty significantly as well. Right now it's kind of a muggy low to mid-80s and cloudy here in Chapel Hill. But Brian, enough weather talk. Let's get to some football talk. And Carolina's roller coaster season continued last week. The Heels went back down as they followed a convincing win over Duke with a disappointing showing against Florida State. And man, the Tar Heels have looked good at times this year, but just haven't been able to do so consistently.
And you hear the word consistency. And how do you become consistent? Through execution. It's not ability, it's through execution. Eliminate the pre-snap penalties. We had those last week. When you're open and you get the ball thrown to you, catch the football. Communicate on the back end on defense and make sure you don't allow guys to run through zones freely. We didn't get that accomplished. And keep the quarterback in the pocket. All those things are four things that we can absolutely do to work to a road of consistency, and we have been below average, I would say, thus far this season.
And look, no team's going to play at its peak every single snap. If Carolina can bring that floor up a little higher, a little closer to the ceiling, and so when the play does dip some, it doesn't dip so much that it's putting Carolina in some tough situations, like last week in the second and third quarters where the Heels were outscored 35-7.
And Jones, you hit the nail on the head. That is where consistency is how close can you close that gap between your floor and your ceiling? And the really good teams, let's say Alabama, year in, year out, that is what they do. Even if they lose, if you catch them on a bad day, that floor is not very far from the ceiling, and that is how you become a really good football team, and that's how you become a really good player.
Lee, it was another big day last week for Josh Downs. 9 catches, 121 yards, his 7th touchdown of the year. All those numbers are great. If the All-America teams were today, he'd be an All-American. But the other Tar Heel wide receivers combined for just 2 receptions. Carolina has to find some more production from the outside receivers moving forward.
Jones, it was really notable standing on the sidelines in the fourth quarter last week. It really dawned on the degree everybody was looking at Josh Downs on the offense. The Florida State team was, all the Tar Heels were, and you know that's got to be eaten at Antoine Green, at Joffrey Brown, at Emory Simmons. Those guys they're just kind of out there as eye candy. They're not really contributing anything. Mack Brown made the obvious point. It's kind of like a duh moment this week. He said, "Hey, we're throwing it to Josh because he's open." He's catching it, and he's running after the catch. Well, that makes perfect sense. The other guys have got to do that, and as you mentioned, only 2 catches. They only got 10 targets, the outside receivers, last week. 15 targets to Josh Downs, and he made 9 catches.
Yeah, I mean, of the 32 passes, 15 were to Josh Downs. And it's not just a matter of evening up the numbers to even up the numbers. It is to loosen the defense a little bit, stretch the field a little bit. All the things that you know about football, Carolina needs some production somewhere else to take some pressure off of Josh Downs, who has still competed and produced at a high level, even with the other defense knowing that it's going to him.
And you got to feel for Joffrey Brown, who's a good kid, a good player. He's had some success here, and obviously now he's kind of, as we say on the golf course, got the yips. You know, you just stand over a putt and know you're not going to make it. And, you know, he's had a couple of drops that's got to be playing on his mind. So it'd be interesting to see what the Carolina staff did this week with him mentally, just to try and relax him and get him just to loosen up and look the ball into his hands and make a few catches and get some confidence.
Yeah, I agree, Lee. And it's not necessarily just about Charf, it's about the rest of the guys also. And I'll say this, all those guys have struggled to get separation. And so when you got a bunch of guys that's struggling to get separation, as an offensive play caller, as a system, you have to find a way to help get those guys separated. And how do you do that? You do that through formations, you do that through motions, you do that through shifts. And it'll be interesting to see today if Carolina decides to do some of that.
And Carolina hadn't made a ton of contested catches either. I think the injury to Bo Corrales is one that was kind of in the preseason thought, oh, well, that stinks for Bo, but Tar Heels have a lot of other talent there. But I do think they've lost a lot with Bo's ability to make that contested catch, his height, his ability just to go up and get it. And so we'll see if Carolina can continue to develop at that position. They need to as they move through the back half of the year. Brian, everything that went right for Carolina defensively against Duke flipped against Florida State. They forced 2 turnovers against the Blue Devils, 0 last week. They slowed Duke's run game. They allowed 238 yards on the ground last week. Had 9 tackles for loss, 5 sacks against Duke. No sacks, just 2 tackles for loss against the Seminoles.
And the 238 yards in the run game, there lies the problem. When you cannot stop the opposing team's run game, you're going to have issues all day long. And the quarterback, we understand the problems we've had with mobile quarterbacks the last 3 years. And when you allow the quarterback to break the pocket, because they didn't really throw the ball a whole lot, he just was very efficient in the passing game. But you have to be able to stop the run. And Florida State just beat us up front. I mean, there's no other way around that. They beat us up front. And can I go back to the last thing?
Sure.
When we're talking about the offense and receivers? I'm not an offensive coordinator, but if it's me, I find a way to get my tight ends more involved. Morales and then Nesbitt, 6'6", 200 and almost 50 pounds. I find a way to get this young man to football. He's very athletic. He may not be the type of blocker that you want out of that position right now, but so what? Let the 6'6" basketball player go up and make some contested catches and give you a big presence inside the hash that can be productive for you.
And Nesbitt, actually, Brian, last week was one of the outside receivers. He's a tight end, but they split him outside, and he had one of the catches to those outside guys last week.
It'll be interesting to see how Carolina continues to use him. Obviously a high talent there, Bryson Nesbitt, the freshman out of Charlotte. Let's take a break. Come back. We'll take a focus on to Miami, the opponent today, when we return to the Reese Jewelers pregame show from Learfield.
What are you doing? The Fox brothers, high maintenance. You know what I mean, Eugene? Yes. Yes, here we go. Where's the nose guard? Let's. There he goes. I mean, you look like you're 55 years old right now. Is this his jam right here? Is this his jam right here? Yeah. Hey, good start. Let's get cranked up. Let's go. Let's go. No, I never had a pedicure. You never had a pedicure? No. Why? Because I'm your Trey Morrison. It's good for your feet. Yeah, I hear you. Better, Gio. Better. Still drive off of it, right? Like, watch out. Like if you and I, if we were going up for a jump ball and I went boom, you with me? I got a better vert than you, so that would be part of it. We're working on right now, working on shock, right, and then kind of a baby doll throw off, all right? But I can't just kiss it off. Go again, here we go. Set, go. Good. Good. They let me mention that Jenna was the best manager of all time. You know what I mean, Doug? Yeah, hey, truth hurts, brother. Come on, Doug. Here we go, working on half-field coverage. Come on, Doug. I need a ball, Doug. Thanks, dude. Doug, these guys, man. You know what I mean? Me and you, we don't need any water, do we? We just grind. And
Miami coming soon here at Keenan Stadium. These two first played in 1946. Of course, it has become a regular meeting since the Hurricanes joined the ACC in the mid-2000s. Carolina leads this series. 13 wins, 11 losses overall, and leads the series since Miami joined the ACC 9-8. There have been a bunch of competitive games, including 2 years ago here in Chapel Hill. Last year, not so competitive. You'll remember Carolina won 62-26. Had a school record 778 yards that day down in Miami Gardens, Florida. Both teams have a portion of their team out on the field. Miami, even though it is wearing green kind of warm-up T-shirts over their uniforms, They'll be going all white today. The white helmets with the U logo on at the side, white jerseys and pants, a bunch of green and orange mixed in the piping and the numbers for the Canes. Carolina going all blue today. Blue helmets, blue jerseys, blue pants, white NC on the side of the helmets per usual, white numbers and letters, white Argyle up the side of those blue pants today. Let's talk about the Canes. And Brian, Miami, as Lee alluded to in his open, it's been a tough start for Miami as well. Just 2-3 overall, 0-1 in conference play. But this game feels like it represents something of a fresh start for them. That they haven't played since September 30th. And some injuries have forced a change at some key positions, most notably, of course, at the quarterback spot.
Absolutely, and Lee called it the disappointment bowl. But I think both of these teams will see it as kind of the get-right bowl. And both of these teams need a big win, a coastal opponent. Miami, unfortunately for them, this has kind of been their story, right? Up and down. And depending on what day you play Miami, you can play a really, really good football team, or you can play the team that we played last year, where I think Williams and Carter still running up I-95 somewhere. So, hopefully we can catch them on one of those down phases. But, for Carolina, this is an opportunity regardless of what Miami record is, just like Florida State last week. They're going to bring guys in here that's very competitive, that's very athletic, that can run. And when they are playing well and they're playing disciplined football, they can beat anybody on any Saturday.
Well, Brian, we kind of chuckled over the memory of that game last December. Well, Miami has had to put up with that for an entire year, and quarterback Tyler Van Dyke this week said that they had rewatched the television tape of it where the announcers were making fun of them and laughing at them. So it'll be interesting to see how they put that in context and if they can use that as some emotional fuel here this afternoon.
Speaking of Van Dyke, he's the new quarterback. Tyler Van Dyke, second-year freshman, so he is still listed as a true freshman, but he had the COVID year last season, as everyone did. He has taken over for De'Aaron King. So, Lee, in addition to Van Dyke, Miami also sports what Mac Brown said he thought was the best group of receivers in the ACC. This is a potentially potent passing attack from Miami.
Well, Michael Harley's number 3 all-time career reception guy at Miami with 147, so he's in some high cotton there. They also went to the transfer portal very effectively from Oklahoma. They got Charleston Rambo. He's a junior, 6'1", wears number 11. He's had 31 catches. He's the leading receiver on the team with 387 yards. Had a big game against Michigan State, 12 catches to tie the single-game school record in Hurricane history.
And one thing about this passing attack, Carolina is going to have to defend the deep ball because Miami will take shots, and it's going to be very important that Carolina can not only be in phase and be in position, but be able to find the football and make plays on the football. And then in the short and the intermediate, they have guys that can catch the football and make short catches into long plays. So it'll be a challenge for Carolina from an athletic standpoint.
Brian, real quick before we wrap up here, actually sparked in part by that big game from Carolina a year ago. Miami made some changes defensively as far as their staff, and Manny Diaz, the head coach, former defensive coordinator, longtime defensive coordinator, has taken the defensive play-calling duties over this season. The results have been a little mixed, but one thing they do well is they get into the backfield. They'll knock you back. They're top 15 in the nation in tackles for loss.
Yeah, Miami's always played that upfield aggressive gap scheme where they allow their guys to get pressure upfield to try to disrupt whether it's the run game or the pass game. And this year is no different. Listen, after a game like last year against us, you will be embarrassed. And they watched that tape. It wasn't because the players asked to watch. The coaches used that as motivation. They wanted them to hear what was being said about it. But more importantly, how did you look on this tape? Were you giving y'all at any point, did you tap out? And there was a lot of tapping out on that tape. And I guarantee you they heard about that all week.
They have had some issues tackling. They've had a game where they missed 21. There's a game they missed 30 tackles against Michigan State. So they have had some issues in that regard. They will try to be better in that way today. Keep an eye on the weather. We anticipated a front to come through, as I said, right around kickoff. It's in the process of coming through right now. There is some rain kind of out in the northwestern part, maybe starting to sprinkle now actually here at the stadium. It is dark. It is expected to move through and have no trouble once it is done, but it is trying to make its way through the Chapel Hill area right now. You don't go anywhere, though. We're going to take a break, come back. We'll keep getting you ready for Carolina, Miami, and that'll start with our conversation with Jeff Saturday. That's coming up next from Learfield. This is Jones Angell, voice of the...
Pregame show. The official Reed's Jewelers kickoff time is 3:33. Reed's Jewelers, your home for fine Swiss timepieces, beautiful diamonds, and the world's most luxurious jewelry brands. That's Reed's Jewelers, trusted with life's moments. As we get ready to get back to business here on the broadcast, let's send things back over to Jones, who's standing by with Jeff Saturday.
You know what time it is. Sit back. You know what time it is. Sit back. Just get your football lesson ready to go as we're going to talk to Jeff Saturday here on the Reed's Jewelers pregame show. Jeff, great to be with you again, and wanted to start asking about communication. We have heard the Carolina coaches talk about some communication issues, both on the offensive line. We've heard it in the secondary at times, and how that needs to be cleaned up for Carolina to be a little more consistent. From the player perspective, everybody understands what communication is, but when we're talking about it on the field, player to player, what does it mean and how does it affect the game?
Yeah, so you hear people use the coaching cliche of play fast, right? Like play, it needs to be instinctual, it needs to be all these things. Well, communication is what allows you to do that. So when an offensive lineman approaches the line of scrimmage, he's looking at the defense they're playing, the front. So are there 4-down linemen, 3-down linemen? Is there a linebacker walking outside? Is there a linebacker walking up in my gap? There's all these different places and alignments that they have to discuss with the guy beside him, because it will potentially affect whether it's a combination block in a run or passing off a game in the pass. And I think the best example I can use of it is last week. I think it's fourth and short. We're in the red zone. Sam ends up having to throw it. We don't complete it, and it's down in the left front corner of the end zone.
Yep.
But between the left tackle and guard, the communication on the game has to be the way they want to pass it off, right? You have a penetrator who's going to be the end, and then the tackle is going to loop behind him and then try to close it down and keep contained. Well, if you walk up and one guy sees it one way of, oh, no, I'm going to stick to my guy, I'm not going to pass this game off, and then the other guy thinks, oh, we are going to trade it off, it doesn't look like a glaring error. It's not like what we call a Nolan Ryan, right? A swing and a miss, and the guy's running free, right? It's all of a sudden this guy is now creating pressure, or he's giving an issue to Sam being able to go attack the line of scrimmage, maybe score with his feet, because you can't quite get it passed off. And now flip it over to the defensive side, Jones. You talk about like defensive back, whatever coverage they're in and how they're playing that specific coverage. If the corner is going to be in inside alignment or head up alignment, and where he's going to pass and who his help is. And listen, how you play fast in football is you know where your help is coming from, because now you're just going to attack that portion of what you do. So all of a sudden, the guy gets inside. You think your help is there, and it looks like, oh, man, I'm going to go make my play, and it's a guy's running wide open down the field because the safety didn't see it the same as the corner, or vice versa. And it's people think that should come instinctually or fairly easy, but the reality is alignments from the offensive side or the defensive side affects each and every one of those calls. So it can get very complicated. And so really what coaching staffs do, and probably what they've done this week, is they narrow it down. They run fewer plays. They run fewer different disguises or adjustments so that guys can get back to just playing instinctual football and play fast.
Jeff, one more thing before we let you go. Mac Brown has talked some about the growth of the program and the journey of a program, and Carolina's taken that step from when the Heels weren't very good a couple of years ago to now they're good and they're better, and now they want to take that step from being good to being great and being one of those elite teams. How hard is that step? I feel like you were a part of some teams at Carolina late in your career that took that step. How hard is that to make?
It is the hardest step. I mean, the reality is going from really bad to just being okay or good is the easy step, right? And people don't often think of it that way, but recruiting is going to make a huge difference in that part, right? Of just going from being okay to now your players are just better. But when you go from good to great, and now you're trying to put yourself in that elite category in college football, it requires a whole lot more, right? A whole lot more attention to detail from the player's perspective. It takes understanding what it's going to require to win. And I think that, people go, oh man, well, you just line up and you think a team is just going to go ahead and take that step. But each player has to take it upon themselves to win their individual battle. And whatever that requires of them, film study, right, preparation, conditioning, all the different things that go into being a good football player. And then when you get on the field, being able to transfer it from the training to that ability to hit game day. I think that's really where our issue has been, right, is the consistency is we're staying good and thinking that good's going to get those wins for you, but it doesn't. I mean, and the hardest part for a fan is our expectations, right, and me included, is that, you have these expectations of, oh, man, this is, we're going to be this type of team, but the reality is it takes work, and it takes these guys finding one way to win or one way to get that they can go ahead and now depend on. But at this point in our season, sometimes our offense is good, sometimes our defense, sometimes it's special teams. We're going to need one group to step up and be the kind of the cowbell of what that, or bell cow of what it should be, and we're going to have to and ride with that group, and then everybody else kind of plays around it. And when I was there, it was our defense. I mean, our defense is really my last 2 years what set them apart, and they were so elite that we as an offense, we had to get better because you're facing it every day, and then when you go play on Saturdays, man, it becomes easy. But right now, we're waiting to find out which group that's going to be, and hopefully find it sooner rather than later.
And a field report with Lee Pace when we come back after this from Learfield.
And we're back with breaking news. The new Coke Zero Sugar might be the best Coke ever.
That's right.
Every sack is a sack to give back. For every sack the Tar Heels make this season, Food Lion Feeds will donate 1,000 meals to feed our neighbors in need right here in the Triangle. Dave Nathan welcoming you back to Keenan Stadium. The skies have opened up what we hope is just a momentary rain shower here in Keenan Stadium. Carolina on the field going through pregame warmups. The Canes in the east end zone right now huddling up, and smattering of students in the student section, and a few folks here or there across the chairbacks to either side of the sideline. Well, we're 2 weeks shy of the 17-year anniversary of Connor Barth's game-winning field goal that sent the Tar Heels past number 4 Miami 30-28. With the Canes in town today, let's press the rewind button and flash back to October 30th, 2004. Here's what Barth had to say in the immediate aftermath of the victory.
All I remember is right before I went out to kick, I saw fans starting to line the sidelines around the hedges. I was like, wow, I got to make this or I'm in trouble.
Greg Warren snapping, Jared Hall holding. Connor Barth for the possible win. Snap, spot, kick away, high enough, long enough. It's good! It's good! Carolina has won the game on a 42-yard field goal by freshman Connor Barth.
It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I look back on it being 18 years old, young, and it's just awesome to see how much composure I had. To go out and do that, but I felt like I just want to go out there and do my job for the team, and just, I came through in the end, and it was just one of the best nights I've ever had, and probably the best kick of my life ever.
That's Connor Barth. His field goal split the uprights just before the fans took down the goalposts, and Lee Pace was on the field that night. He's on the field today. Lee, what do you remember about what ensued after Barth's kick?
Well, first, Dave, I remember the timeout going into it. I said to Woody Durham and Mick Mixon upstairs, I said, guys, as soon as he makes this, I'm going to try and grab Connor and get a word. And Woody said something to the effect of, the old Dean Smith mindset, which, of course, Coach Smith was notorious for timeouts in late games, telling guys what to do after a key free throw was made or something. So I did find Connor, got a quick word with him, and the rest, as they say, is history. Of course, what you got from him was a little more relaxed and a little bit more reflective. But I tell you what, that was then, this is now, and right now it is a downpour here on the field at Keenan Stadium. That system we've been watching the last hour or so develop over Burlington and Mebane and move this way has really descended on us, and it's raining hard. Hopefully it will get through here in reasonable time. Of course, really looking for thunder and lightning, because that's what would send everybody in for a delay. But anyway, checking the Tar Heels, nothing really new from the last couple of weeks. No Caleb Hood, no Storm Duck, no Brian Anderson as a starter at center. It's going to be Q Johnson starting again at center for the Tar Heels.
That's Lee Pace down on the field, brought to you by Breakthrough Physical Therapy, the choice in North Carolina for keeping you in the game of life. After another timeout, Jones begins his two-part conversation with the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown. That comes your way after this on the Reed's Jewelers pregame show from Learfield.
We've came a long way.
Reports indicate that Mack Brown is returning to Chapel Hill.
It hasn't been easy.
Now to growing concerns about coronavirus. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor.
Through every sprint and set, we fought. Through the naysayers, the doubters, and all the talking heads who wrote us off. Through every sweet victory.
Got it! Touchdown! Hello!
Joy celebration.
Touchdown, Carolina!
Through every shadow expectation. Disappointing ending. Just a few years ago, we were on the afterthought. Brushed aside. A non-factor. Not anymore.
Ball out of the pocket. Looking downfield. Unloads one for down. Gang is going to be swarmed. Lens off the edge. It was Conley. Oh, my goodness. It's intercepted. Cody Grimes. That's the ball. And he is into the end. Up and into the quarterback. Jump ball. Touchdown. And Mack Brown pouring it on.
We've came a long way. But this journey is just beginning.
The rain has subsided some here in Chapel Hill, but a pretty good downpour over the last 10-15 minutes here in Keenan Stadium as both teams have exited the field, and just a few students remain towards the Carolina end zone where they'll rush out of here in what we hope is a little less than 30 minutes time. What we don't have to wait for is part one of Jones' conversation with Coach Brown in the Continental Tire Coach's Corner, brought to you by Continental Tire, innovative technology, driving confidence. For a dealer near you, just go to ContinentalTire.com.
Inside the Continental Tire Coach's Corner with the head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown. Carolina prepares to host Miami in Kenan Stadium. Coach, the Heels looking to bounce back after the difficult outing last week. What has been the focus this week for you, your staff, and your team as you've prepared for the Hurricanes?
Jones, more than anything else, we're about halfway through the season now, and it's just time to refocus and clean things up. We still haven't played together as a team. And that seems simple. For whatever reason this year, it's very hard for us to do. And we started well last week against Florida State, but we didn't play well in the second quarter. And then had our chances in the second half, but just didn't finish like we needed to. So more than anything else, we've got to play as a team. It's not about Miami today. Miami's got great players. We've all known that they have had their ups and downs. Both teams have been like they've been on a roller coaster. We started with tough games, and then we've been up and down, and expectations were much higher than what we've accomplished. So we got to keep working. We can't get down. We've got to be positive and try to play our best game today.
Coach, you've talked some throughout the year about the odd distribution on your roster as far as a handful of older players and then a lot of talented younger players that make up a majority of your team. Does that make things difficult to manage for you in any way?
It does. The older guys feel like the younger guys are entitled, and they're coming in here after an Orange Bowl and they haven't earned anything, and the younger guys feel like the older guys are too demanding for them because younger. Lou Holtz said it the best. Seniors want to win, juniors want to play and win, freshmen, sophomores want to play. And that's just the way it is. That hadn't changed for 100 years in college football. So what we've got to do is make sure that we get a good mix of the young and old here in the last half of the season and start playing better as a team. When you're inconsistent, Jones, it's about the coaching. That's what it is. It's my fault. Because we've got good players. They're great young people. And when you have too many penalties, you got lack of discipline. When you've got guys that aren't playing with passion all the time, we have an offense show up and the defense doesn't show up. Vice versa, that's on me. That's on me and our assistant coaches, and we've got to do a better job of that today.
Coach, you have consistently talked about, I think people who've seen your program understand the importance of running the ball for your team and how that leads to success more times than not. If you take out the quarterback run, and certainly understanding that's part of it and fair to talk about, but Carolina averaging a little more than 150 yards per game on the ground from that tailback spot. Is that in the area that you would like for that position? And if not, how can that improve?
Yeah, we are improving. And you know, we had 390-something yards rushing against Virginia. Where'd that come from? Right. I mean, this team's been a team of surprises, good and bad. But I think it's foolish of us, Jones, to say when you take the quarterback run out, it's part of the game now. Let's take Florida State's quarterback runs out, and they don't win last week. So let's talk about running game. Let's don't talk about running backs. Come on, who cares? They're rushing yards, and you need to rush the ball well enough that then you control play action pass, which we do a lot of, and then you control protection when you're getting ready to drop back. So if someone can stop the run, in most cases, Jones, it's a long day for the other team. I go back and look, the large majority of time in my career, when we've outrushed the opponent, we've won the game. Yeah. And that's just period. And that's 40-something years of watching this stuff. So turnover ratio, field position, tackles, missed tackles, and really running the ball are big parts of what happens in the outcome of a game.
Carolina will try to get the better of all those things today against Miami. We'll talk a little bit more about the Hurricanes when Coach rejoins us later in our pregame show. Here are Carolina's starters on defense.
Ravo Hasek, McHenry, Illinois.
Miles Murphy, Greensboro, North Carolina, Dudley High School.
Kamen Rucker, Hartwell Elementary. Damon Fox, Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Jeremiah Gimmel, Newton, Georgia.
Cedric Gray, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Aquarius Colley, Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Trey Morrison, Atlanta, Georgia.
Colin McMichael, Atlanta, Georgia. Don Chapman, San Diego.
Tony Brown, 757, where the dog's at.
Kenan Moments from Lee Pace, author of Football in a Forest, presented by the Campaign for Carolina, creating opportunities for more Tar Heels.
Despite the Miami Hurricanes' gaudy record of 5 national titles, the team has been decidedly pedestrian since entering the ACC in 2004. Who'd have thought it? The Tar Heels actually have a record of 9 wins and 8 losses against Miami over those 17 years. And certainly one of the high points was a 3-year winning streak from 2007 to 9 engineered by Butch Davis, the former Miami head coach now in charge at Carolina. Brandon Tate scored on a 54-yard end around, and Connor Barth hit 4 field goals as Carolina prevailed by 6 points in Keenan Stadium in 2007.
Now they're going to run the reverse to Brandon Tate. He's wide open around the left side. Touchdown, Carolina!
Quarterback Cam Sexton came on for an injured TJ Yates in the Orange Bowl the next year to pass for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Tar Heels escaped with a 4-point victory.
Sexton rolling out to his right. He's going to throw end zone. Caught! Touchdown, Carolina by Brooks Foster with 46 seconds remaining.
And quarterback Kendrick Burney had 3 interceptions in sparking the Tar Heels to a 9-point win the following year back in Keenan Stadium, entering the perfect trifecta for Davis against his former team.
Harris looking, going to throw deep, got a receiver out there, and it's intercepted. Taken down by Kendrick Burney. Throws, and it is intercepted. Here comes Kendrick Burney. Throws, and it is intercepted, Carolina. Have you ever seen something like this?
That's today's Kenan Moment presented by the Campaign for Carolina, creating opportunities for more Tar Heels. Well, the rain again has tapered off. Some of the students are filtering back into the student section and some other fans across the way as Carolina and Miami close in on the kick. As a matter of fact, we're 15 minutes away from kickoff presented by Geico, and 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Let's check in with Canes head football coach Manny Diaz, who is in his 3rd season in Coral Gables as the head man. And while this year hasn't gone according to plan, Diaz says college football is as unpredictable as ever in 2021.
If you look at what the top 10 in the preseason polls was compared to where it is now, and you've got someone like Iowa, ranked 2nd and with a phenomenal atmosphere they had up there this weekend, and just the ups and downs and the comings of going to different teams. But I think there's still really, really good teams that are not ranked, that were ranked high early on. I mean, even you look at Clemson and where they're at right now, that's still a phenomenal team, with great coaches and great players. So, as you know, we like, college football is a sport where we take a picture of it after every weekend and make assessments. But, again, it is still a long season. Teams are finding their way, looking to improve, and we'll see how it all looks in November.
Here are Carolina's starters on offense.
Easy, Atlanta, Georgia.
Kieran Johnson, Reesville, North Carolina.
Jordan Tucker, Roswell High School, DeKalb University.
Austin Richards, Philly.
Marcus McKeithen, Barnwell, South Carolina.
Garrett Walston, New Hanover High School.
Justin Olsen, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Josh Downs, Slimy Little Dude High School.
Henry Simmons, a.k.a. Zip Simmons.
Todd Chandler, Montgomery Bell Academy High School.
Sam Howell, Indian Trail, North Carolina.
to throw.